Star Wars Revenge of the Sith is not as good as you remember it. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but that is just the case. Okay, look, I get it. We grew up with these movies, okay? I grew up with them. As a kid, I loved episode 3. Okay, I thought it was the best movie ever. I was obsessed with Star Wars. As I've gotten older, I've also gotten more cynical. And with that, my perspective has somewhat changed. This movie is just not that great. Okay, now I'd like to preface this whole video by saying I don't think Revenge of the Sith is a bad movie. Okay, there are a lot of bad movies. Revenge of the Sith is not one of those. Okay, it is a solid B-tier movie. It's very fun, and I'm gonna draw a comparison that might ruffle some feathers here. Revenge of the Sith is very, very similar to the Minecraft movie, okay? In that it's very easy to watch, it's very fun, and as a result, it's very, very beloved. Despite the fact that, objectively speaking, it's not a very good movie. And we'll get into that. So first things first, what do I like about the movie? Well, I'm gonna try and keep things fairly original here. I'm not gonna regurgitate the same points that everyone else has made. I'm gonna put some original thoughts here. But first, the things that I like about the movie are, one, the pacing is very good, okay? In comparison to the other prequel trilogy movies, which have a lot of pacing issues, okay? They're very, very slow at times. Episode 3 does not have that problem. It is lightning fast at times, okay? You go from one scene to the next, and it just flows very, very nicely. It's very easy to watch. I'd say, even if you're not a Star Wars fan, you'll still very much enjoy this movie. It's a real crowd pleaser, right? It's just entertaining, right? Anyone that denies that is just delusional. And the next good thing is the action. You know, the action is, for the most part, very, very good. The duel between Anakin and Obi-Wan, obviously that's been talked on to death, so I'm only going to briefly mention it, but you know, that fight is fantastic from start to finish. It's very well choreographed, it's flashy, it's entertaining. Same thing with most of the other fights, like the Count Dooku fight at the start of the movie is great. The battle over Coruscant is actually one of my favorite scenes in the movie. I love that whole sequence. I think it's very, 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 very effective. Order 66 is very cool. You know, Yoda fighting Sidious that's another great fight. Not all the fights are great though, and we'll get to that in a bit. And the third thing that's very good about this movie is the memes, right? The absolute memery present in this movie cannot be understated. I mean, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that every other line in this movie I've seen in some kind of meme. Okay, there are entire scenes where there are back-to-back-to-back memes. I don't think any other movie has had this much impact on, you know, internet culture as Star Wars Episode 3 has. Like, maybe other than the Minecraft movie, right? This movie has just been memed on to death. And I think that is a good thing. I think that really adds to the viewing experience. Even people who aren't familiar with Star Wars can enjoy it because of that. So those are the good things. That's where the good ends, though, in my book. So let's get on to the not so good. So as I previously alluded to earlier, not all the action is good. Not all the fights are good. So the fight between Obi-Wan Kenobi and General Grievous, like, I'm sorry, like, as fun as that fight is, it is just so stupid and unnecessary. Obviously, Anakin is the focus in this movie, right? It's not Obi-Wan's story, it's Anakin's. However, in order for Anakin's story to work, you need Obi-Wan off Coruscant, right? You need him to be on some kind of side mission. And it's clear, you know, George Lucas, in this case, was desperately trying to come up with something for Obi-Wan to do. And it's like, shit, you know, let's just send him off to some random planet to fight this giant death robot. And that's exactly what happened. That whole part of the movie, it doesn't feel very impactful whatsoever. Okay, we're told how important Grievous is, but we're not really shown it. Like, he doesn't do anything impressive. And the fight itself is just super, super silly. Like, the way Obi-Wan, you know, gets the jump on Grievous is stupid. He jumps down. He somehow doesn't get noticed by anyone from the droid army, I guess. He jumps down on them, and he's surrounded by battle droids who are all pointing their guns at him, but not shooting. Why? It's a Jedi. They're your enemies. Why aren't you shooting? You're just all standing around in a circle, pointing your guns at him, but not firing. And then Grievous comes in and gives his villain monologue, and then they 1v1 for some reason while all the droids sit around and watch. Why? Why can't... If I was Grievous, I'd just get my droids to shoot at the Jedi, and the problem solved, right? Okay, and I know there's gonna be people saying, oh, well, you see, Grievous wanted a fair 1v1. If you've seen the Clone Wars, you know how stupid that notion is. Okay, Grievous is perhaps one of the least chivalrous characters in cinema history. Like, the guy does not care about fairness or anything, okay? So this idea that, you know, he'd want a fair 1v1 with Kenobi is stupid. But that's not where the silliness ends, because a few moments later, the entire clone army somehow gets a jump on them and kills all the droids. So, I don't know how, but I guess no one in the droid army noticed that the Republic was on their ass. Like, they were just so distracted with this one Jedi that they didn't notice they were about to get snuck up on. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, surely they have radars, they'd have people around, you know, making sure they're safe and stuff. It just seems very unrealistic that that could happen, where these clone troopers are just able to sneak up on them like that. It just doesn't seem likely, on these like fucking ropes as well. It's that whole section of the movie is stupid, but like, it's forgivable, right? Because it's still very fun. Something that isn't forgivable is the fucking fight between Mace Windu, the 3 Jedi, and Palpatine. I'm sorry, that fight just sucks. It is just a terrible, terrible fight, and here's why. Put yourself in Mace Windu's shoes. You just found out that, you know, the Chancellor is the big bad guy that you've been looking for, right? You know, you've been hyping this guy up for ages, you know, he's the most powerful Sith ever, and you just find out that he is the Chancellor, right? Like, he's been playing both sides of the war, manipulating everyone. So if I was Mace Windu, I'd be like, damn, this guy's bad news, right? If he was able to trick everyone, the whole galaxy, then this guy must be strong as hell, right? He was able to conceal himself for that long. You know what I'd do if I was Mace Windu? I'd gather every fucking Jedi on the planet to go take him down. But no, what does Mace Windu do? He grabs 3 bums, right? Which he just, I don't know where he pulled these guys from, because they suck. They suck at being Jedis. He just grabs these 3 guys, goes to Palpatine's office, and they immediately get slaughtered. Like, it is so bad. These quote-unquote Jedi Masters get immediately slaughtered by Palpatine, right? In like the goofiest way possible. Basically what happens is Palpatine gives his villain monologue, he pulls out his saber, he jumps at them, and then he sort of, you know, since he's played by Ian McDiarmid, who's like 60 years old, he old man walks to one Jedi, stabs him, then takes like 2 steps to the next, stabs him. This all happens very slowly, by the way, like you could easily defend, especially if you're a Jedi Master. And then he takes 2 more steps, he sort of old man walks to the 3rd Jedi, stabs him, and then he fights Mace Windu. It's just stupid. You're telling me these Jedi Masters weren't able to block any of those attacks? Like, this is what the attack looked like. You're fucking Jedi Masters and you can't defend from that shit? You know how embarrassing that is? And then the rest of the fight is really terrible as well, because it's clear, you know, Ian McDiarmid's a great actor, but you know, the dude's an old man, right? Like, he cannot use a lightsaber, okay? It just looks terrible. I'm sorry, there's a reason why they use stunt doubles in most movies. And I've seen so much cope from people glazing this movie. You know, there'll be people saying, oh, you know, when Palpatine pulled his saber, he used the Force to blind the Jedi so they couldn't see him, or they just come up with these convoluted, like, explanations for why this makes sense. There is no explanation, okay? There's no explanation that can make any of this make sense. It's just bad choreography. It's just lazy. I don't know. There's no good explanation for it. Another thing that's terrible is Anakin. I think Anakin in this entire movie is horseshit. I think his character is trash. I know it's gonna upset a lot of people because a lot of people like him. You know, if you're someone who loves Anakin, then I challenge you to look at all of his decisions and find like a single good one. Because every decision the dude makes, not even in this movie, but in the entire prequel trilogy, is just horrible. Like, the dude's a fucking idiot. He's the most powerful Jedi ever, but he's a buffoon. He's a twat. So the stupidest thing he does in this movie, to give some context, basically Anakin is having these dreams, these visions of his wife Padme dying in childbirth, which is very scary for him, right? Because he thinks visions are gonna come true somehow. So he's like, shit, I need to do something to save Padme. So he goes to Palpatine, and Palpatine's like, yeah, if you leave the Jedi Order, you know, betray all your friends, kill a bunch of children, and join me, we can save Padme. I have all the secrets. And then Anakin's like, yeah, sure. Even though Palpatine had like no evidence for any of his claims, it was basically just like, Trust me, bro. Like, Anakin is just so gullible in this movie. I'm sorry. He's just very difficult to sympathize with. Yeah, but basically Palpatine's like, trust me, bro. Join me and I'll save your wife, maybe. So Anakin's like, yep, sounds good. He betrays the Jedi Order, kills a bunch of children, does everything Palpatine asks. And then Palpatine's like, well, you know how I said, I'd save your wife? Well, I actually don't have any of the secrets that you're looking for, but, we'll figure it out, right? And then Anakin's like, yeah, sure, sounds good. What? Bro, Palpatine literally just admitted that he lied to you. He just admitted that he lied to you. He was like, moments earlier, he was like, yeah, I've got all the secrets, man. I'll help save Padme. Anakin's like, bet. And then Palpatine turns on him and is like, yeah, well, I actually don't know shit. I can't really do anything, man. But we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out together, right? At this point, like, how can you sympathize with Anakin? Like, the dude's a fucking idiot. Oh my god. Also, let's talk about Padme. Okay, does anyone actually like Padme? Like, I refuse to believe there's anyone who likes Padme as a character, okay? Because obviously, Natalie Portman is fine as hell, okay? I get it. And she's great in all 3 movies. But the actual character of Padme is just such a bad one. She's incredibly annoying. All the scenes with her are painful to watch. And then the way she dies is just so stupid. Like, you're telling me she dies from losing the will to live? I think that's the exact line they use in the movie. She's lost the will to live, guys. Why? Because her edgy boyfriend became edgier? Like, he was already edgy. I don't know what the issue here is. Like, Padme is just such a bad character that, she just gives birth, right? And then she basically, like, chooses to die, I guess. She chooses to abandon her kids because her dumbass husband did some fuckery. It's stupid. She's a terrible character, and I don't know why anyone would sympathize with her, right? Like, I just don't get the love for Padme, okay? Like, she's hot. That's about the only good thing about her character. There's nothing else good. She's just bad. And also, that death scene is so stupid. Like, they couldn't think of a single other way to kill her off. Like, obviously, they needed to kill her off in this movie. That's not what I'm upset about. But it's just the way they kill her off, which is just so stupid. Right, you're telling me, oh, she died from a broken heart, so, she's losing her will to live. Stupid. Like, they couldn't come up with some kind of medical reason why. What they could have done is they could have had the explanation that, Anakin choked her out a little bit too hard. Because, there's a scene on Mustafar where Anakin chokes her out of, like, anger. You could have had that be the explanation, he choked her a little bit too hard and she died because of that. That would have been actually a lot more tragic, right? Because then, through his pursuit to save her, he accidentally killed her. Like, that's way more tragic than her dying from losing the will to live. Like, that is just so anticlimactic and stupid. Like, and people just accept it. Bad. Another thing that sucks, I previously said that the Mustafar fight is great. Yeah, I do think it is. It's a great fight. Except for the end, right? The way Anakin actually loses makes no sense whatsoever. So they're fighting on all these platforms on the lava bank, and then Obi-Wan jumps off the platform onto the bank, and he's got like 2 feet of high ground, right? And then he's like, it's over, Anakin. I have the high ground, which makes no sense. Like, you're telling me 2 feet of high ground is like the deciding factor here? Like, we saw moments earlier, Anakin is definitely able to jump higher than 2 feet. Like, we saw it earlier in the movie. He was able to jump around like 10 feet plus. Like, 2 feet of high ground should not be an issue for him. But for some reason, it is. And that's how he loses the fight. He jumps too low. He jumps over Obi-Wan, allowing Obi-Wan to just cut his legs off. Also, if he for some reason couldn't jump that high all of a sudden, maybe he forgot how to. Let's say that happened. Couldn't he have just walked off the platform onto the lava bank and then continued the fight? Like, he didn't have to jump over Obi-Wan Kenobi. Or he could have jumped to the side. He could have really done a lot of things, right? Pretty much the only way he could have lost that fight is by doing what he did, right? And there's so many, there's gonna be, again, so many fans who explain this way, being like, oh, Anakin tried to recreate Obi-Wan's move from episode 1 where Obi-Wan killed Darth Maul in the same way, blah, blah, blah. Right, and it's just, that's a stretch. Let's be frank, that is a stretch. At the end of the day, I still like this movie, but it is not like secretly genius, okay? It just isn't that well thought through, like objectively speaking. It is not a thought through movie, okay? You can still enjoy it, and I still enjoy it. I'd say it's in my top 5 Star Wars movies, but it is not a quote unquote masterpiece. It is not the best movie of all time. It's not even the best Star Wars movie of all time, okay? It's a movie that's fun to watch, but has a lot of silliness, and objectively speaking, the writing is not that good. It just isn't. But let me know what you guys think. And also, happy Star Wars Day, everyone. This is kind of a one-off. I don't know if I'll be doing more movie reviews. I kind of enjoy it, honestly. I kind of enjoy talking about this stuff, especially since I don't have that many people to talk to about this kind of thing. You know, it's kind of fun to just talk to a camera about it. But let me know what you guys think, and what do you guys think of episode 3? Yeah, but I think I'll end it there. Have a good one, and may the Force be with you.